Good afternoon. Yeah, this is pretty close. It's 5 minutes to 12. Good afternoon, everybody. So today I have a combination reading progress video / book haul because I have made a few purchases recently. And of course, I'm going to provide reading progress for you. First, about a few notes. Just a reminder, Matt is going to be on the radio on June 8th at 5, from 5 to 6:30 on WMPG to talk about the psychology of bowling. So be sure to tune in and listen to him. We also have our summer fundraiser for DoubleHouse Arts coming up on July 13th. Not July 13th. I'm sorry, June 13th. We close for the summer on June 6th. So I will put a link in the description box with more information about our fundraiser. If you are unable to come, you can always make a donation to DoubleHouse via their website as a way to show support for us. And I also wanted to remind people that the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR podcast will be on WMPG on Sunday, August 10th from 5 to 6:30. Kathleen, Amelia, and I will be reviewing Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, Our Town by Thornton Wilder, and Matthew Perry's movies, Fools Rush In and 17 Again. Now, I will be sharing books I'm currently reading that are on my May to June TBR and talking a little bit more about other books I'm planning on reading this summer that are on my various TBRs, because I have several different thematic TBRs going on and a backlist TBR from last year. That's book recommendations from Destiny, Sarah, Rachel, Gabby, and Riley Marie. Okay, so the first book on my TBR for Pride Month, which starts on Sunday, June 1st, is Loveless by Alice Oseman. This is a reread from last year. I am currently on page 143. The next book is the book club selection for the Reading the Rainbow book club with Connor and Noah at Print Bookstore. And it is called Idlewild by James Frankie Thomas. And I am currently on page 188. The next book is called Harriet Tubman Live in Concert by Bob the Drag Queen. This book is by one of the previous contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race, which I have never watched before, but I'm all for reading books that are by LGBTQ plus authors. This is our book club group for the book at the book group at Print Bookstore, Beers, Books and Brews with Rachel Conrad. I am so far on page 58, so not very far into this yet, as I just started it a couple of hours ago. The next book I am reading for Pride Month TBR is Luda by Grant Morrison. Noah at Print Bookstore recommended this book to me when I told him I was looking for a book to represent Chandler's dad, Charles Bing / Helena Handbasket. And obviously this is about a drag queen, and it's a murder mystery because one of the other drag queens gets murdered, and Luda, the main character, who is an up-and-coming drag queen, is asking Lucy, the person who was just involved with the murder, because somebody she knew got murdered. She's like she's the person who she is aspiring to be like. And I just wanted to say that I have been watching Friends for the past couple of days, and the episodes about Chandler's and Monica's wedding was on Tuesday, and that episode always makes me cry because I just love them together. They have always been my favorite couple on TV. And another scene that makes me cry is when Chandler's mom and dad are walking him down the aisle, and he is telling them how grateful he is that they are there together. In his book, Matthew Perry mentioned that there was an instance where he was celebrating his birthday as an adult, and him and his parents were together in the same room after their divorce. And like, he had wished since he was a young boy that they would get together again and remarry, but he was sitting there at this event and was realizing that he was happy that they would never remarry because the relationship between them was never happy. So I feel like Matthew Perry drew a lot from his experiences with his parents when he was doing the writing of Chandler's character, because as Kathleen and I discussed in the Mother's Day episode when I mentioned the one with Mrs. Bing, in that episode he confronts his mother at the end of the episode about him abandoning her, about her abandoning him to do her book tours. And in the one with Chandler's dad, the whole plot of that episode is Chandler not having talked to his dad, who divorced his mom and abandoned the family, because his parents were divorced when he was 10 because his father realized he was gay, and that's when he started his drag show career and kind of left Chandler in the dust and left Nora to raise Chandler by herself. And obviously Chandler resents his dad a lot for abandoning him, and that's why he hasn't stayed in touch with him. But he admits to Monica that his dad has gotten in touch with him in the past couple of years, but he has been afraid to connect with him because he is still angry at him. And so Monica decides to get Chandler and his dad back together by taking Chandler to his dad's drag show in Las Vegas and having him confront him and explain to them that he would really like them to be at their wedding. So I just thought that whole scene with Chandler confronting his fears about being around his dad after so long were so emotional. And Matthew Perry talks in the beginning of his book about his dad abandoned him when he was little to go work on his singing career. And I feel like that whole aspect of his childhood was really what inspired the whole plot line with Chandler's parents being divorced. And as Matthew Perry says in the chapter about Friends in his memoir, I knew Chandler. I could shake hands with Chandler. He was a lot like me. And there are numerous episodes of Friends where I have noticed throughout my rewatch that art imitates life in terms of how closely Chandler's character is similar to Matthew Perry's actual life. I may do a separate video about that as part of my series about covering the certain characters and how I can relate to them and whatnot. So that video will be coming soon. The next book is called Shoko's Smile. This is a Japanese translated short story collection by Choi Eun-young. This was recommended to me by Taylor at Diaries of Creativity in her video where she puts a reading list together of books that Rory Gilmore would read if Gilmore Girls was filmed in the present day. And I can't wait to dive into this short story collection that is like basically centered around coming of age. So thank you, Taylor, for this recommendation. She also recommended Intermezzo by Sally Rooney in that video, but it's not like I hadn't previously heard about Intermezzo before she recommended it, because I had also seen it reviewed by Destiny, Rachel, Sarah, and Haley. The next book I am reading currently is Carly Fortune's new release, One Golden Summer. This is set on the same Canadian lakefront town as Every Summer After, and I was looking at the discussion questions, and I guess a character from Every Summer After reappears in this book, so I will do a live reading journal for this book where I answer the discussion questions in the back and discuss how I can relate to the main character, Alice. Currently, I am on chapter 9. So I am planning to finish this book tonight because I am loaning it to my art teacher, Amelia, the next time I see her at rehearsal on Sunday for a tincture of time. So that way we can all prepare for the radio show on August 10th. Currently, I am on chapter 7. The next book is a book that I borrowed from my next door neighbor, Kathleen. It is the 4th book in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants series. So I first read this series when the books were first released when I was graduating from high school and college. And it's been really fun revisiting this series and watching the movies again after all this time has passed. As Kathleen and I mentioned in our video that we did a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned when we talked about Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2 that we most related to Lena because we come from big families. I am Italian, Lena's character is Greek, and Kathleen is Irish. So another character I relate to in these books the most is Carmen, because in the second Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants movie, it is after their freshman year of college, and Carmen is going to a theater internship in Vermont at a well-known Shakespeare camp with her roommate, Julie. I think her name was Julie. So I was able to relate to Lena in the first book and throughout the whole series, and Carmen in the second movie. The other discussion question that I can answer at this point of where I am in the book is this next discussion question asks about, did you ever feel unfulfilled by your job and relationship like Carmen did in this novel? Did it take you a while to see it? When did you notice and how did you react? This is a way I cannot relate to Carmen because I have felt like I have had very fulfilling jobs in the past, and even jobs in the past I have had that I may have struggled with. The fulfilling thing I gained from that was the experience. The next book that I am reading right now is called Less by Andrew Sean Greer. And this was on a recommendation list I found on Instagram, which I can also link in the description if I can find a way to properly copy and paste it, about book recommendation based on comfort TV shows. And this obviously is on the list for Seinfeld. And I just started this morning, and I am on the chapter called Less French, which starts on page 129. And I was trying to determine how this book relates to Seinfeld, and I was hoping to find a chapter in this book about Puerto Ricans, because they have the Puerto Rican Day Parade episode where Kramer stomps on the flag, but I can't find anything about Puerto Rican in here. But there's stuff about Italian, and there's stuff about so I can't wait to read more of this book. And this is my first book by Andrew Sean Greer, so I can't wait to read more of his writing. This next book is called Certain Girls by Jennifer Weiner. She also wrote Big Summer, which I have not read yet. I heard about that. I heard about Big Summer from With Cindy, and also In Her Shoes. I believe I heard about that book from With Cindy. So those books by her are next on my list. So this book is about a single mother and her teenage daughter. Their names are Carmi and Joy. Joy is 13 and about to achieve the Jewish milestone of having a bat mitzvah. And Joy and Carmi's relationship is very similar to Lorelai and Rory, although Joy is a couple of years younger than Rory. At the beginning of Gilmore Girls, Rory is a freshman in high school, and I think Joy is in 7th or 8th grade in this book. But one discussion question I wanted to answer that is very on point with Gilmore Girls is question 6, which relates to other relationships. So the question states, Canny struggles with 2 absent fathers, her own, with whom she hasn't had a real relationship in decades, and her ex-boyfriend Bruce, who not only abandoned her when he was discovered that she was pregnant, but who also hasn't been the most attentive or responsible parent now that he's back in Joy's life. And then there's Peter, who isn't anybody's biological father, but he plays a father's role nonetheless. Compare and contrast Bruce Gruberman, Lauren Shapiro, and Peter Kingsbury. Khrushchevlansky, and their relationships to their families. So Lawrence must have been Cammie's dad, but we're only going to talk about Bruce and Peter because the reason I think this book is very similar to Gilmore Girls with the parental relationships is that Bruce is definitely similar to Christopher because he's a very absent-minded dad who is in and out of Rory's life consistently and tries to repair it in the first couple of seasons, but obviously you can see in the episode where Christopher goes to Emily and Richard's for Friday night dinner that Rory is obviously very hurt at how he hasn't been there for her. And I really felt bad for Rory in that scene because she is obviously very angry at Christopher. And I feel like Joy has very similar animosity towards her father for him not being around to take care of her. And Peter is kind of similar to Luke because Luke is definitely a father figure to Rory, even though she's not even though he isn't really related to Lorelai, but I can definitely see in the scenes where Luke and Rory are together in scenes by themselves, that Scott Patterson is obviously trying to have a father-like impression on Alexis Bledel playing Rory, and I think they both do a good job in those scenes. And I think Peter tries really hard to be like a father for Joy, but Cammy doesn't want to let him in because I think she's probably afraid of being abandoned again. So this is my first book by Jennifer Weiner, as I said. And I really like her writing style, and I can't wait to read In Her Shoes in Big Summer next. The next book I am reading right now was recommended to me by Rachel Catherine. She read it she reviewed it, I believe, in her March or her April wrap-up. I can't remember. I have to look for the video again. This is a romantic comedy book about somebody who is a public relations person for a celebrity, and she's trying to make things right after the celebrity has had a mishap, and he ends up and they end up falling in love with each other. This is my first book by Bianca Gillam, and I really like her writing style and can't wait to see what's next from her. I don't know if she's come out with any new books lately, but I can't wait to see what is next for her. This book just came out earlier this year, so I'm excited to see what's next. So this book, I am currently on chapter 20, and I think it's going to be 4.5 stars quite easily. The next book is the novella in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts, Powerful. So as this series has gone along, I have grown very connected to these characters and their relationships. I didn't really like Powerless, let's be honest, but I just finished Reckless, and now I'm on to this book. This book is like a holiday novella that's set in between Powerless, and that's in between Reckless and Fearless. So I'm really excited to see where the relationship between Kai and Peyton develops to in the next book. The next book I'm reading is by Allie Carter. She's the same author as The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. Her Christmas release from last December got 4 stars. So I'm really excited to be reading another book by her. And I am currently on page 103, chapter 10. And finally, the last book that I'm currently reading is P.S. I Still Love You. This book is the second book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series, and I read the first book in this series in February 2024 for Valentine's Day, and I really could not stand Lara Jean. She really turned me off a lot, so I don't know why I initially decided to pick up this book, but I'm happy that I did, actually, because I think there's been a lot of character growth for Lara Jean in between the first book and the second book, which I really enjoyed. And I am on page 258. So thank you for tuning in. My next reading update video will be out on probably June 9th or June 10th. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great day and have a great weekend.